Hello, everybody. Jose Rodriguez. Now, you guys know that I own a Pro 1000, and all of my chips, such as this right here, have been disabled. And that is a process, a systematic process that you perform as you are printing. And there's two ways to address this. You either immediately, while you still have ink in your printer cartridges, drill your hole, your fill hole, and start adding ink to it, whether you need it or not. Make sure that you have always ink. Eventually, that cartridge, because it knows how much ink has passed through the internal compartment, it will declare it as low. And that means at that point, it has like 20 plus ml of ink in it. But you keep adding ink, so it's way above that 20. So as 20 more ml have passed through the printer and the cartridge still has ink in it, it stays at low for quite a long time. And eventually it just says, wait a minute, there must be something wrong. I'm going to throw an error. It's 1753. You hold the pause button for a 5-second interval. You will see the words processing across the screen. Once it's done, that chip is now disabled. It is disabled only for your printer, not my printer. So another way is to say you let it go empty, by accident, and it reaches that red X condition. Don't do anything. Take out the cartridge, drill it, fill it with ink, pop it back in. It's going to say, wait a minute, dude, your cartridge is empty. Do you want to proceed? And you may have to do this several times. This is what Mike Lee from Precision Colors has educated me about. And so you could do it the way that I described earlier, but if you accidentally let it go empty, you can just add ink to it and just kind of play with the printer. It's going to say, hey, wait a minute, you have no ink. Do you really want to continue printing? Yes. And it may take, like I said, 2 or 3 of these questions for it to disable the chip and allow you to continue. At that point, it is your job to make sure you always have ink in those cartridges. Okay? But here is a thing that occurred to one of my viewers. And I thought, oh my God, if that happened to me, I would think I would go into panic mode. So remember, I have all 12 disabled, but I have my sensor system installed. And that works the same as the internal compartments we're doing. When it reaches down to 20 ml, it tells you, yellow exclamation mark, you are in low condition, sir. Make sure you order some ink. Okay. So what happens with the sensor system, when it reaches low, you have 20 ml. I get a bright white light for that particular channel. There are 6 channels and 6 channels. And you see one of those lights will go white. It blinds you. And you know that cartridge number 8 needs to be topped off. And you could basically safely add 60 ml of ink to it. It'll bring it back up to a near or just above full condition. Reinstall it and you can continue printing. The light will go out and until the next time that it reaches the point where there's 20 ml or so ink left in the cartridge. Except he didn't have the sensor system. So he apparently disabled the cartridge chips, and one of them, because he just didn't pay attention, and you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to pay attention and let it go empty, literally. There's no ink level information anymore. So the cartridge went empty. In other words, there was no more ink in the cartridge. So here's what happens internally. And thank God for Canon's amazing technology. Okay, I don't mean to, I'm not kissing Canon's, you know what, but it is amazing. So the internal compartment realized that even though the chip was disabled, okay, the way that it normally works is that you have 3 sensors. An upper sensor detects that ink is touching it and it does not allow any more ink to enter. There's a pre-located valve that shuts down. So ink from this cartridge can no longer be flowing in and overflow that compartment. It's vented to the outside, so it would literally leak all over your table. So it shuts down. And so you begin to print, and the ink levels begin to drop in that compartment. And then a secondary sensor is exposed to air, and that triggers the valve to then open, allow ink to come in. The levels slowly rise. It triggers that upper sensor again. Now it's not looking at air, it's under the ink now, and it shuts the valve down. And you would think that this would stop working once you disable the chips. So what happened was the printer stopped printing midway. And he's going like, what the heck? He doesn't have any kind of indication. I believe he may have seen an error. I don't remember exactly the details to this horror story. So he takes the cartridge out, looks at it, puts it back in, still cannot continue printing. Takes the cartridge out, and then he realizes, finally he realizes, wait a minute, this feels pretty light. I can hear ink inside. But he didn't hear anything. He waited 32 grams. That cartridge was bone dry. So what happened internally was this, and I figured it out. The second sensor was triggered. In other words, ink levels drop. That sensor was exposed to air. That triggers the valve to open, but there was no ink flowing in. So it allowed itself to continue printing, and then it reached a third sensor. Once that sensor got activated, it says whether the chip is disabled or not, it says stop printing, it's empty, stop it. And it did. So what did he do? He topped off the cartridge, he put it back in immediately, because that valve is still open. Immediately ink began to flow, it filled the compartment up, it reached the upper sensor, it triggered it, it closes the valve. Guess what? He can now print. And I'm thinking, you knucklehead, I can't believe you allowed your uncensored, in other words, no sensor attached to it, cartridge to go empty when you should be diligently, constantly keeping track of your ink levels. Okay? Wow. So, I mean, that terrified me. I would not want that to happen. I am not about to test that at all. You cannot pay me to do that. But this is the second person who has told me this. So apparently there is a safety net. Amazing. I love Canon. Wow. Anyway, so that is it. Again, if you're doing this, if you have disabled your chips, if you are, you drill your cartridges for refilling, but you do not have any other method of estimating, whether you use sensors or use those big windows that I showed you guys in the past, please make sure you test your levels. At least every couple of months, remove one of the cartridges. You should know by now which colors are utilized the quickest. Chrome Optimizer is the quickest to go. So take out your Chrome Optimizer cartridge and weigh it. If it weighs 40 grams, you only have 8 grams left of ink, 8 ml of Chrome Optimizer. Top everything off. Okay, top everything off. And then if you do it like on the 30th of every month, like every 2 months, let's just say, then you could at least figure out, say you do it this month on the 30th, and the cartridge weighs 42 grams. That means you have 10 ml. And then the next 2 months on that 30th of the day, you now have 50 grams. Well, maybe you can extend your refilling period. You see what I mean? Because maybe you're refilling too soon. You'll figure out your method. Or else just get some kind of sensor system from PC or from the viewport company for installing those viewports on your cartridges. Just anything that you can use to help you figure out whether you need to add ink in those disabled cartridges or not. Okay? You don't want to end up like these guys did, scared to death because they thought they killed their printer. Okay, lucky for them, Canon still had their backs. That is it for now. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. And as always, happy printing, everybody. Happy refilling, especially your Pro 1000. Bye-bye, everyone.